You said something biblical socialism. I'm just throwing out there that they willingly gave what they had.
Right.
Socialism is the government will take all that you have and decide how to distribute it.
Except for they willingly voted in New York. Which Dave Ramsey's show made a comment on.
Yeah, so the people that voted against it will be stolen from.
Dave Ramsey made a what?
Dave Ramsey's show.
I saw he had the Babylon Bee.
Yeah,
said,
did you see that?
Dave Ramsey in the hospital because of
critical
50-year
condition.
mortgages.
Critical condition.
It said Dave Ramsey, critical condition. He's laying there.
His daughter commented on it, said, did a health check. He's good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
50-year mortgages.
That's funny.
Dave Ramsey's show, though, it wasn't Dave. It was one of his other staff.
One of the other theologians on staff, is that what you're saying?
I don't know
Just
about
giving
that.
context to what you're about to say.
Yeah. No, he was saying, I just want to address that 70% of millennials think positively of socialism. And he goes, and we're the finance show. I'm not going to call you an idiot, even though we've basically held that stance for the years of the show. But he goes, we have to realize that any young millennial and Gen Z has not in their lifetime had a positive impact of capitalism with their spending and earning. And he goes, you have to look to older millennials, Gen X, and older than that to know that we've had really great seasons of capitalism doing something great for a citizen. And he goes, so I understand that right now there actually is an affordability crisis. And so because of the affordability crisis and because their only lived experience, again, what you said last week, uninformed, maybe they're uninformed about other people's experiences, but their own experience is true that they've never been able to afford a home because now the starting age for someone buying a home is now 40 years old in America. 40 years. And so that's like, you wish these things to your kids.
Way up.
Yeah. And so that, and then education costs and then benefits, all those things are so outrageous that it does kind of make sense if you add all those things up, that 70% of millennials, which we are, not you, Gen Z.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
Depends on the study.
Yeah, it depends on the study. He's fighting for that one. That's crazy. You know, that we haven't had super positive interactions with affordability. And so does that mean that socialism works? No, but it means that people are so restless with their experience that they want to change something.
Yeah, looking for something else.
And I'm a capitalist.
But are they? But they're blaming. But people are blaming it on affordability when it's really other issues. You know, so
like what are some issues,
dude? I mean, millennials are morally bankrupt, and I'm a millennial, by the way. So no,
just because you are one,
dude. I'm serious. I think that when it comes to government and worldview, morality, there's entire swath of millennials that have stayed grounded on the word, and another group that blurred the lines. It happens every few generations. It's like a faster blurring of the lines of like what is right and what's wrong. And I remember these things. I remember threads of them playing out even in young middle school, like even late elementary school, like starting to teach, and people my age are embracing ideas around abortion and same-sex stuff, and not just that stuff, but in regards to finance, like little threads of capitalism is evil, it's bad, look at what it's produced. And I'm just saying, like, I don't think this is entirely the cause, but you have to look at millennials were the first generation who really were not native to technology, but by the time I was going to college, I had iPhone 2. Okay, that's pretty crazy. Like, we had dial-up internet in my home growing up. We had a home phone. There's so much good to that, and again, there's a big shift that happened in that we've talked about in society that was not healthy, was not a net positive. And by the time I was graduating high school and going to college, it was like everybody had a smartphone in their pocket. That's a massive shift. And what I would say is, and honestly, people in the room can hate on me for it, but it's like, again, I'm saying this as a millennial, as somebody who bought a home in a day and age in an economy where homes are not deemed affordable. And by the way, there's a real issue there. Like, I understand that. But you look at, like, by and large, our generation being a generation that was less motivated to go to college, less motivated to find a spouse, less motivated to work for family, wrapped up in video games, paralyzed by pornography, all of these things that compound, and technology is one of the root things. that had a stranglehold on human depravity. You know, you talked about that, but it's like, how do you lose motivation in life generally, in family, in work, in again, the pursuit of what you call the American dream? That factored in a huge way. And you just had a lot of people that did not run and work at the pace that people did in the past. I'm just being honest.
But I also think that's one perspective of it. You also have millennials are the ones who created a lot of this technology that is, you know, AI and social media. Again, you can argue whether or not those are net positives or not, but you look at programmers, you look at some of the things that have been able to be accomplished, you know, sending people to space, whether or not that actually happened or not. You know, hey,
we can talk about it.
Yeah, but I do think it is perspective. You know, some stats say millennial dads spend more time with their kids than any fathers in history.
Sure.
You know, so there are components to that. I would look at it, and I think it's fair to blame, to say, who are the parents, who are the leaders of society? And that's where I really look to, is I look towards the people that are trying to communicate these things, all the things that you talked about. These are people that are anti-Christ, they're anti-Christian values.
100%.
And I don't mean to be that guy that just, it's like, it's all about the people that are walking away from Jesus. That's the root of it. Well, because it is. It really is that. And I do find that these ideas that are being espoused, I mean, if you're somebody and you say, hey, go to college, you get a degree, don't worry about the loans, you'll pay them off super quickly. And then you graduate, you aren't getting a job that's paying very well, and you end up being in mountains of debt so you can't afford a home. You're now looking at who are the people that told me to do that. Because if you're 18 years old and your government allows you to sign on a loan that can't be forgiven, that is $100,000 for you to study some dumb degree, it's like, who's to blame here? Is it the 18-year-old or is it the society? So I do think it's hard. And so that's why I think you have people that are frustrated. Ultimately, it is personal responsibility. But I think it goes to, you look at since the 1960s, the lack of fatherhood in people's lives.
Yeah, 100%.
So it is this catch-22 to say, who are you trying to blame here?
Yeah.
We can find a culprit to blame, but ultimately you look back at, why is this happening? It's people who've walked away from what the Bible says when it's, take care of your family, take personal responsibility for your decisions. Don't do sinful things and expect to get great consequences, right?
Yeah, and I love that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not even claiming that Josiah was saying that. It's just I don't like it when people are like, well, this system or this particular thing is to blame. It's like, depending on what system we're all talking about in this room, we would widely agree that as human beings, we don't get to blame all of life's issues on a system. I mean, that ideology is like what we push against every day in other arenas of life. And so to me, it's like, I agree with what you're saying. And I think it's just taking personal responsibility. I love, this weekend was Miracle Offering. And what was it that your dad shared? Pastor Rob telling the church, hey, if you make more than $50,000 a year, you're in the richest 1% of the world. I'm sorry, but you can't hear that stat and be like, well, the problem in regards to home ownership and finance is simply affordability. That's insane. Because if you look at the inflation and the price increase of homes, but compare that again to real wages people are making, it still absolutely dwarfs what you see around the world. And so I would say it's a consumerism mentality that has also delayed. Like, this is a corny example, but this is a real example. Krispy Kreme just opened up in Fridley, Minnesota. Shout out.
Were you there to grab a box?
Yeah, I was actually.
And how long?
I texted Pastor Kirk, hey, I took the day off. I'm sick. And I waited in line. I didn't tell him I was sick. Day. But we did wait in line 2.5 hours to grab some Krispy Kremes. Actually, this is kind of embarrassing, but I got to share this story. It's hilarious. My man, Braden Dickey's standing in the back, and I posted a story like, hey, we're waiting in this line. It's long, but it's going to be worth it. And he replied to the story. He swiped up. He's like, that's so cool. Are you guys like doing a SNAP benefits outreach? And I was like, no, dude, I'm waiting for Krispy Kreme donuts. And he's like, oh, shoot. And so, and I watched the story back and I was like, dude, it looks like we're in a food line. Like, this is crazy. And I'm going to be honest, it was that group of people. Okay. So anyway.
You were one of them.
That sounded worse than
were one of them.
That sounded worse than it was meant to. And by the way, I was there. Okay. I was there.
Yeah. So back to the affordability.
My point is this. Yeah. There's a point. One of the GMs of that
We're gonna
Krispy
go to questions
Kreme,
soon.
because listen, Krispy Kreme was here 17 years ago, is my understanding, right? Not who's counting, but they were here. And one of the GMs at Krispy Kreme on opening day said this. We were like, yo, why, how did they all shut down? And and he literally was like,
affordability.
yeah, it's the housing crisis. No, he said Americans are spending more on luxury items today than ever before. That might sound like an elementary truth to this room, but his point was, he said, we opened too many too fast in this region. Ultimately, like, there was a novelty to it, but it wore off. And he's like, but now, he's like, based on market research now and what we're doing, he's like, even though the world's talking about less wages, less affordability, he's like, people are buying more than 50% increase of donuts than they did 17 years ago. That's insane. So again, that's a small, like, dumb example, but I'm just telling you, the donuts, the coffee, clothing, all the stuff that we all love. And it's like, it's one of the amazing things about this country and what capitalism has produced. It's like, none of that stuff's bad. But my point is, people say, we're not making enough money, homes are too expensive. And I just want to know, how much money are we actually spending on things that don't matter? And I'm a part of that, but that's why when our lead pastor's like 1%, I don't think we fully grasp that.
Well,
because
and our expectations have changed. And Pastor Kirk, I'd love you to speak onto this, and then we'll kind of wrap up this segment and go to questions. But the amount, I saw a stat that said record number of European vacations for Americans last year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so we're dealing with unaffordability.
Yeah.
But we also have a record
This
number.
is the new American dream. The new American dream is, how can I do as little as possible for as much as possible? That's not what our forefathers built the country on.
What do you mean for as much as possible? To spend the most amount?
I want to do as little as possible and get as much as I possibly can. And get as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And we see that. People want to work 24 hours a week and make $100,000 a year. And they're like, maybe I can be an influencer. Maybe I can do something that I like to do that's not much work. And you see people changing jobs every 2 years max.
Yeah.
It's a change.
Yeah, I will say, paired with that, there are, like, even that work at the church, women that become moms that go,
yep,
we need a dual income, but I really feel this call to parent, and so can I do my job in 32 hours rather than 40? That, like, the negotiation of, like, I want to do what I feel called to do, and I feel the pinch of like we need to make ends meet, you know. So that's a reality as well.
And it's knowing yourself too. I mean, there's some people who are who drive themselves crazy if they did that, and there's other people that would drive themselves crazy if they stayed in their career. And it's like being obedient to say, what are the trade-offs? You're going to have trade-offs. I think that's the biggest thing that people miss. And I said, I'll let you close. I'm sorry, but life is a life full of trade-offs.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
could be doing something different right now. You could be listening to a different podcast. You decided to choose to listen to this. Why did you do that? For whatever reason, thanks for listening. But also,
and you paid to be here, capitalism.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Can I just say, we do have some boomers here, and I saw the greatest meme. It's a boomer that was celebrating, and it's like,
if you're talking to boomers, you have to explain what a meme is.
This is if they're here, they know.
I was thinking it, dude.
A boomer celebrating, going, hey, here's a boomer who bought their house for $5 and a bag of beans, and they can sell it for $1 trillion.
It's true.
It's true. Affordability.